Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing right now.
So you, Violet Blue,
yes, Pirillo,
which is an amazing name, by the way. Mine is really boring in comparison.
I don't think so.
Really?
Yeah.
But you have a crayon. You have two crayons.
No, crayon discontinued.
Really?
Crayon was discontinued in 91? Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
Okay, so now I don't feel so bad.
No.
Because I was going to rename myself to Chris Puce.
Oh, because I was wondering what color would Chris Pirillo be?
Periwinkle or Puce. just because.
You put a lot of thought into
yes,
this already.
Yes, I have. Unfortunately, I don't really have much else going on in my life. So
what color crayon would I be?
Somewhere in between, Puce and Periwinkle.
What I like about you is that people don't call you Chris; they call you Chris Pirillo.
Why?
You're one of you're one of those people where it's just both names. It's like people don't call him Kevin; they call him Kevin Rose.
Oh, that's
you know
true.
I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, as long as they don't call me by my with the middle name, because like anytime the middle name's thrown in there, that means you're an assassin. Like, think about it. Like all the assassins in history always have three names.
Or a psycho killer.
One of these. Well, yeah.
Henry Lee Lucas.
I
Lee
can't.
Oswald.
It's getting uncomfortable.
I'm sorry.
And see, this funny thing is that we're going to talk about sex.
This is true.
What kind of sex? Not, I mean, just that's because
Kind
that's
of?
what you. No, I mean it's. I'm not uncomfortable with it at all. I mean, I've had it at this point, and
Okay, that's good.
I'm yes, very much so.
Yay for geeks.
Yes. Didn't think it would happen when it did, but it did. Every time it happens, I'm like, it happened. I can't believe it happened.
I vlogged about this thing on Laughing Squid that was it was a virginity restoration certificate that you could buy online, and for $1 you could actually buy it for someone else, and it would restore their virginity whether they wanted it or not.
Is that, will it work though, or is that just like a snake oil?
It's like literally for novelty purposes only. At the bottom does not guarantee that bearer of certificate is actually a virgin, which I love that it comes with a disclaimer. But I thought I could buy this for my geek friends who tried so hard to lose it in the first place. It was like a terrible prank.
You've probably seen it on a bumper sticker, but it's probably been quoted somewhere else. But someone said something about losing your virginity. I said, no, I know exactly where I left it. I didn't lose anything. And if that's not a bumper sticker, I thought I did. It was like a perfect tweet, and you know, it made sense to me. And someone said, I think I saw a bumper sticker, so I can't take credit for that quote. It may already be out there floating somewhere,
Not
like
lost.
my virginity.
Abandoned.
No, it wasn't abandoned. It was. Long story.
Discarded.
So, right, of course. So to make an uncomfortable situation even more uncomfortable,
Let's do it.
You've pretty much written at least, well, you're in the 20th now, aren't you? In terms of,
I think around 27.
Wow.
But I have one, well, it's supposed to come out on the 1st, but it's already out.
And all these books are written specifically about sex.
I would say that most of them are ones that I've written, and those are nonfiction how-to guides on human sexuality. And then the other half is edited anthologies of fiction, erotica, of other people's writing. So I work with a lot of writers. I work with hundreds and hundreds of writers to put the books together.
Okay, so some of them are compilations of stories and background, or
short stories mostly from women around the world.
Why is that? Is it just women are more open with their sexuality than men, or?
No, it's because it's been a pretty untapped market, women writing for women about sexuality, and it's just incredible. I mean, it's other than the romance novel market. I mean, this is not really romance. This is just like really strong character-driven, narrative-driven fiction that includes explicit sexuality, and it's sort of like erotic lit, basically.
So is it like, if I could say this, porn for women?
Basically, yeah. Yeah, but mostly by women for women.
Okay.
So.
Is that because a female's verbal capacity, or well, no, I mean, physiologically speaking, your corpus callosum is less divisive, so you've got a better balance between the two hemispheres. So I'm just curious. I don't know. You know a hell of a lot more about it than I do. That's for sure.
It's mostly because there wasn't that much erotic fiction written by women, and so my publisher wanted to do a series that was Best Women's Erotica, basically the best erotica from around the world. And that ended up doing so well, and there was such a hunger for women to read more stories written by other women that were women's fantasies that I just went ahead and started doing more. And so I'll do 2 or 3 anthologies a year at this point. So it's great. It's great.
So now you've been on Oprah, and
Yes.
will continue to be as long as I'm sure she's on the air.
Yes, there's another one on March 25th.
Don't compare this to Oprah at all, because I'm not.
I will.
You will?
Yeah.
Great. I'm okay with that and everything. I'm just.
Okay, you're asking me the tough questions.
Am I?
Yeah.
Really? Are they really tough? I didn't think they were. Okay, thank God. Because you're the one with the coffee. I've had water, coffee. In terms of this whole career that you've kind of carved out for yourself, I mean, I don't. Maybe
Very
you
much
had this
carved out.
planned in the beginning, or
Oh my
just
God, no.
stumbled into.
Not a plan.
Oh, okay.
It was so not a plan.
Well, then how did it happen?
Oh,
And I don't mean the first time. You know, how did this?
Shame on you.
How did this evolve? No, I'm not. No, I'm not going to ask that question, obviously. But.
No. It kind of happened by accident. I really didn't expect to end up doing at all what I'm doing. I was, in 1998, I got hired as the copywriter at a women-owned sex toy store called Good Vibrations. And at the time, they were starting to...
Sorry, that was a snicker.
God,
The
grow
play
up,
on
Chris.
words. Sorry. Told you, I'm not Oprah.
Yeah, so I got hired as their copywriter, which ended up having me reviewing all of their books and movies. And they were developing a web presence at the time and their educational department. And so as their writer, I just basically ended up writing out a lot of their website. I launched a web magazine in 2000.
A zine, really?
Yeah, for them, but I wanted it to be just like, sort of like a sex and culture thing where people could come and read about not only sex and culture commentary, but also get some erotica and also get information, like accurate sex information. So it was sort of also a way of like branching our educational department out into a format where people could be like, oh, this week there's an article about, how to talk to your kids about sex.
Mm-hmm.
And just make it sort of like an all-over-the-place magazine, and it did really well. And at the same time, I just started getting approached by publishers, and people wanted me to write more, and I launched my website at the same time, and it was a sex and culture commentary site.
Which website?
TinyNipples.com.
Tiny nipples?
No.
Sorry,
No.
I have very bad hearing. I'm not.
As if.
No, anyway. That's why you never see me shirtless.
It's the TMI
Right.
show with Chris Pirillo.
Hello. Christopher Joseph Pirillo. Now I'm a mass murderer and assassin.
It fits you.
Yes. What was it again? Tiny nibbles?
Yes.
Okay.
Like little bites.
Yes. Just making sure. There, we clarified it. We'll move on.
No, it's okay. Someone, I don't know who bought, I should probably look it up, but someone did buy tinynipples.com, put a, like a spammy porn site on there. So I'm like, oh, that's great.
I think you floated on. Well, I mean, I don't think I'm in your demographic. I'm not a female. I like females.
You're in my demographic.
Am I really?
Oh yeah.
Really? So I could read it and not feel.
I edit erotica for couples.
Okay.
I edit erotica. Lots of guys read the books. I mean, just because it's by women for women doesn't mean that guys are gonna like it. So
Sure.
it's good stuff. It's hot erotica.
But see, I guess
everybody.
I don't really read that. I read like news articles online. That's like or comic books too,
Me too.
sometimes.
Me too.
But you floated it across my radar when you had the flap with Steve Jobs.
Oh yes.
So you must explain to my audience who are admittedly on YouTube,
Yes.
a lot of boys who have yet to lose their virginity. So just
Awesome.
So they would have a more they would connect with you more in this whole Steve Jobs flap than they would.
You think?
Yeah.
That was funny. I was at Macworld and Steve Jobs was on the floor, which he doesn't usually do. He was literally just hanging out on the convention floor, and he had his phone and he was talking to a couple of other people, and he was just really just hanging out, and there were people milling about, and so I walked up and asked if I could take a photo with him, which is admittedly pretty ballsy, but I was just like, you know what? He's here. He's hanging around. If he didn't want to be around people, he would be somewhere else. So I walked up and I asked him if he would want to take a photograph with me, and he turned and told me that I was being rude. And I was kind of shocked. He said it very aggressively and very angrily, and I was like, okay. And the people he was with were laughing. And it was a total humiliation scene, and so, which I'm not into humiliation. And I turned 2 steps, and I walked 2 steps away, and I turned around and I took a picture of his back, and a picture of the people who were laughing. And then I ran right into Robert Scoble,
Right.
who was live streaming, and he just picked it up from there and put it on his live stream. And I was like, there he is, this is what just happened, and a bunch of people saw it. It was really intense.
Wow.
Like, it was a real dick moment for him, which sucks, because I'm a hardcore Apple fangirl, like hardcore.
Yeah, you were in.
I was in Macheads.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember seeing it. I'm like, it's violent.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, that was fun. That was a fun documentary. But yeah, Macheads was, Kobe, Shelley, and a couple of other people came, and they came during Macworld. It might have been the same year. I'm not sure, but they came and they just like, they did this great documentary on Apple fanatics, and it's a super fun documentary.
I think it's on Hulu. Or
it is on Hulu.
I think that's where I caught it.
And it's on iTunes too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of people recognizing you, do they recognize you from that?
They do.
Really?
They do. Yeah. It's yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess it's part of the culture too. I mean.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. It was fun. They had me talking about sexualizing Macs and the sexuality of the Mac user.
Like teledildonics or?
No. Well, for instance, like one of the.
Is it Mac compatible?
Exactly. Well, in it, I say, and it's still true. I've never knowingly slept with a Windows user. It's
Yeah,
true.
that's
It's true.
right, you did.
It's true. It's true. I wouldn't.
Really?
Oh yeah.
You would never sleep with a Windows user?
No.
What about Linux?
Not knowingly.
Not knowingly. Right? Would you feel betrayed if, like, you know, in the next day they wake up and they say, I'm still running, you know, Windows Vista or something?
Oh, I'd feel dirty.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably would as well. Sure. I mean, you use Vista, I can't even be your friend. I'm sorry.
I know.
7's a little better.
I would worry. I mean, the virus protection.
Right. Well, exactly. You
Yeah.
probably have to worry about that more than you do, like having your. In all seriousness, probably have to worry about, not to say to take away the light away from like STIs or anything, but you probably have to worry more about your computer getting infected by something bad these days than you do your own body.
Pretty much, yeah.
And then if you're sleeping with a Windows user who hasn't protected his computer or himself or herself
exactly.
or whoever, then
Right. It's true. There are way more unknown variables in the world of viruses.
Like computer stuff.
Computer stuff
Right.
rather than STDs and STIs.
So then, in terms of you draw a lot from personal experience, but then you take in a lot from women. Are you finding, assuming that your audience isn't just?
I've also been a teacher for the past 8 years.
Okay.
So I've been teaching co-teaching with a lot of other teachers a sexuality course.
Online or just?
UCSF.
Okay.
Extension. But yeah, it's basically a class that it's with San Francisco Sex Information, which is sfsi.org, nonprofit. We do frontline counseling for people who have sex emergencies and sex questions.
Sex emergencies?
Yeah.
Like, I need it now! Like,
we have a hotline you can call.
Really?
Yeah, we're one of the only ones in the nation, and we've been around for over 30 years.
Well, my curiosity
But
is...
we teach a course twice a year that teaches people how to talk about sex.
How to talk about it.
Yeah, because we get medical doctors, we get nurses, we get people who work at Planned Parenthood, we get MFTs, counselors, because people don't really learn how to talk about sex in class. Like when you become a doctor or a nurse, you get, I believe, 6 to 8 hours about human sexuality unless you decide to really go into it. And it's not ever about how to talk to your patients about what might be going on with them. It's really just the medical facts. So they come to us to learn how to talk about sexual topics in a calm, accurate, non-judgmental way, basically.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I grew up Catholic. Then I grew up. So I had the whole guilt thing. I'm not even, trust me, I've got a story and a half for your next volume. I could fill a volume with the stories of guilt and shame.
I'm sure. Well, I think that's kind of hot, actually, for Catholics.
Oh, great. Oh, awesome. Then I am a stud muffin. My curiosity, in terms of experience and collecting these stories, are you finding more openness in one culture over another, or is it across the board kind of the same? Women, let's say, from one background versus another, is there any prevalent, I guess?
Are you speaking in, well, there's a lot to consider with that question, because are you talking about what culture did someone grow up in, what religion did they grow up with? Everything is going to vary from place to place, from community to community. I think that, to answer your question generally, there is a consciousness that's opening up and becoming a lot more tolerant about sexuality and talking about sexuality, and sexuality is becoming a lot more normalized. And that's just because of the effect of the internet and people growing up with the internet. So because it's open communication channels, there's more distribution of sexual information. So rather than people growing up and only having what their culture tells them or gives them or teaches them about sexuality, they're going online and exploring and getting their questions answered in a lot of different ways. So there's a huge consciousness shift essentially that's happened within the past 10 years about sexuality in general. So I can say, yes, things have changed, and it is going to vary from community to community, but there is, in general, a lot more tolerance these days, which I think is fantastic. Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. How do you deal with trolls then? Because assumedly...
I get so many.
Right, I can imagine. When you put yourself out there in this capacity, let me put it this way. Of all the videos I've done, never once that I know of has any topic ever approached this level of, well,
Of discourse about sex?
yes, I guess that would be, yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of an eloquent way of saying it, but yeah, sex.
Yeah.
So, you know, I can only imagine the comments that have already likely been posted at the point where people have watched this far in the video.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know, how do you deal with deviance? I mean, really, they're mental deviance, not sexual, just because I don't think there is such a thing. Right. But how does one then deal with the immaturity of people who are either uncomfortable with their own identity or just can't deal with it?
Yeah, it's funny. There's really nothing that hasn't been said about me at this point online. So my skin is pretty thick, and my attitude at this point is that.
And milky white.
Thank you so much.
Hey, dude,
Thank
I'm
you.
Seattle, dude.
I know, right?
I love it.
Yep, San Francisco. No, it's trolls are trolls. They're gonna say whatever they're gonna say. It doesn't really affect me in any way. I mean, literally everything imaginable has been said about me, and I really don't care because it's not true, and it's not who I am, and it doesn't reflect how I move through the world. But it's like, you know, if troll says one thing, it's whatever. Engage with me about my work. Criticize me about my work. You know, say something I can talk to you about if it's topical, if it's something that I can actually answer to or have a constructive conversation about, then I'll address it. But other than that, it's just noise. So that's pretty much how I deal with trolls. I mean, I have, you know, all of my media that I control on all of my social channels, I control. Like, I control the comments there. I control, you know, who gets to participate in my communities, you know, and if you act like a jerk, if you're, you know, crude, rude, mean, cruel, then you don't get to participate in my community. And that's just kind of it. And that's how I feel about all of my online presences. You know, things that are outside my control, not much I can do about it, so I just kind of have to let it wash.
Well, speaking of, that actually is a good segue to my next question. I've been trying to settle this
Washing?
debate. Yes, well, edible underwear. You're supposed to not wear it like you have used it. It's supposed to be edible to begin with.
It's
right?
not a snack for later, Chris.
Right. That was my stance, just so you know. But I said no, you're not supposed to. Anyway, does the person holding the camera have any questions? We've got Ime Shu, who's been helping behind the camera as we were sitting here at South by Southwest Interactive 2010, actually a hotel lobby. You're hearing elevators and people clomping around. Ime, do you have any questions for Violet? Or
just the one that we were talking about yesterday in terms of what happened after LeWeb, because that was something that really deeply affected me, and I had no idea how it was coming off to you, although I can guess. I would love other people to hear a little bit if you're comfortable about talking about that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I spoke at a conference called LeWeb last year, and it's pretty much, would you say it's the biggest internet conference in Europe?
yeah, in Europe easily.
Yeah, and I was invited by the people who organized LeWeb to come speak, and they asked me specifically to come give a talk about the future of sexuality, which was a blast. I had so much fun putting that talk together because it was just this great look at how science fiction has informed sexuality and how people see the future of sex. So it was this really fun 20-minute presentation on just sex in the future and sex and gadgets, and none of it was explicit. There was no nudity. There were no F-bombs. Like, it was really just, it was a really clean talk about sex, if you will. And there was a Twitter back channel going. And I think that the audience wasn't adequately prepared for me. In fact, they weren't at all. I don't think anyone actually found out what I was going to talk about until right before I was introduced. And I really fault the conference organizers for that part. And I got on stage, I did my presentation, and trolls were shocked. And the Twitter back channel that started going was just nasty, and it was like saying that I was ugly, that I was fat, that it was inappropriate to talk about sex at LeWeb, which is I was invited to be there, and if I don't look the way that you want me to look, whatever. And also, you know, that it was disgusting that I was saying that masturbation was okay. You know, it was just like all this crazy stuff that was really, really left field. And I just started getting trolled super hard, like throughout the talk, and it was only a 20-minute talk. And I'm still actually pretty angry at the conference organizers for putting me in that position. And then afterward, the trolling continued. And the trolling continued on all of my social sites. So it was like, for 3 or 4 days afterward, I was doing complete damage control. I was so angry because it was like, I came to give this talk, I was invited. You know, I was a guest. I was on keynote day. You know, it was like, I was in the big lineup. And I just got slammed with all this anger and all of this hatred. And I wasn't even talking about anything particularly racy or controversial. And so for days afterward, these guys, like a number of guys, just kept hitting like, my YouTube channels, like trying to friend me and then, and saying nasty things on Twitter, and then people who defended me, or people who would say, hey, I think that's going a little too far, what you're saying. Like people I didn't even know were saying, no, what are you talking about to these people who are trolling me? The trolls went after them.
Jeez.
Yeah, so it was really just this virulent episode 3 or 4 days later, and I was a little like depressed after the talk because that wasn't what I signed up for at all. I was there to have a kind of, to do what I was invited to do, which was to have a higher-minded discussion about sex and technology with a group of like-minded professionals.
It resonated with me. I mean, I remember watching, I think, the only sci-fi crossover that I can think of that was kind of, when I was younger, heavy metal.
Yeah.
Movie, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I just remember thinking, like, God, is that, like, that's gonna happen. Like, it's
I know,
inevitable.
totally.
It's
You
going
think
to
like, oh
happen.
my God, it's gonna be the future and babes and like all this crazy sex and machines and stuff
Machines
like that.
and everything just kinda mixed
and this
in.
is this fun place that our brains go when we think about the future of sex, right? I mean, and as geeks, we all know science fiction totally uniforms, like our fantasies and things like that. And it's like fun to talk about and fun to imagine. And I think it's it's a pretty healthy expression of sex, especially for geeks. So yeah, I didn't expect like quite the backlash that I got, and I really felt like, sure you could say, oh yeah, you do this conference to get all of this exposure, and I was like, I really don't need that kind of exposure. I felt like it kind of set me back, rather than coming out feeling ahead. I felt like I was more like set back. I felt like I was, in the minus for all the damage control I had to do. So.
Well, I appreciated you doing
Thank
the
you.
panel afterwards yesterday for
that was
South by.
fun.
Yeah, in South by, just to talk about how not to be a douchebag.
Yes.
Because I know now you have not only the experience at LeWeb, but so many other things where you could talk about the stalkings and whatever to get people aware. Because, frankly, from my perspective, if you were a man, you would not have been
That wouldn't
attacked
have
this
happened.
way. It was clearly misogynistic.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It was absolutely because I'm female, and that's just kind of, and people are like, why aren't there more girls in tech? Why aren't there more women engineers? Like, why aren't there more women getting up? And that's why.
Because
That's
we'll be
why.
attacked.
Yeah, because we get attacked, we get hated, we get people cutting us down for whatever, for anything, and it's stuff that's really vicious and really virulent. So, the more that we can put ourselves out there, the few of us that are like okay to take that kind of hate, hopefully the more examples we can set for other women. That's, and people ask why there aren't more women around. That's why. So.
Well, I just appreciate how you just stand up and you get back on that horse and you tell them how it is.
Yeah.
That's probably going to be a comment. It's sad. Like, you throw anything out there, and it just seems to be less about you, more about a projection of somebody onto you.
Yeah, it is.
Kind of troll. Or
It's totally their thing.
They're the one who's
thing.
uncomfortable.
Exactly.
It's not anything about you. So.
Yeah, it's frustrating. But it's like there's not much you can do. So yeah, I have to just kind of keep believing that everything, there's a self-correcting nature that comes with everything that we do with the internet and with social media.
A built-in bullshit detector kind of thing.
Basically, yeah. I mean, it's just sort of like trolls come, they get their energy out, and then they go. So just gonna have to let it happen.
Thank you for taking the time at this late morning.
I know.
At least, like I said, hopefully you're partially caffeinated.
Partially, just partially. I need to get the reserves back up.
Yeah,
So.
me as well. The line at Starbucks is a little too long.
No shit. Yeah.
It's the internet.
I know, but still, I don't know.
We did a whole video about sex.
Is your show clean? Is it? I mean.
It's YouTube.
Okay.
It's like
Do you care about F-bombs or?
I've never done it before, but I'd imagine that anybody who'd be uncomfortable with it probably hadn't watched this video and B made it this far.
Yeah, no doubt.
If you fucking want to say it. Drop it. I think that'd be the first one I've dropped.
Congratulations.
Oh God! Oh, I feel so liberated.
I think your virginity was just abandoned.
Yeah, I think it was. Now we know exactly where it was, right?
Yep.
Right here at this spot.
This marker.
Thank you, bye.
Thank you, Chris.